I worked for 6 years and saved $477,000 to buy our new home. One morning, I woke up, and my husband was gone. His clothes were gone. His laptops were gone. When I checked our bank account, the balance was 0.42 groceries. 6 years of work, gone in a single night. He thought he had vanished with my future. He thought I was just the quiet woman behind the screen. What he didn't know? I had already built something he couldn't see, and by the time he realized what I'd done, it was too late then. My name is Elena, and for 6 years I lived like a ghost. If you saw me in the grocery store back then, you'd see a woman in a 5-year-old hoodie, meticulously comparing the price of generic beans versus the name brand. You wouldn't know that I was a senior UX designer pulling in 6 figures. You wouldn't know that my husband, Marcus, and I were sitting on a mountain of cash that most people our age only see in movies. We were both orphans. We didn't have parents to fall back on or an inheritance waiting in a trust fund. When we got married at 22, we made a pact in our cramped, 400-square-foot studio apartment in Seattle. We called it the Great Grind. The rules were simple. No vacations, no new clothes, no eating out, and no upgrading our lives until we could buy our forever estate in cash. Marcus was the one who pushed the dream the hardest. He'd sit on the floor with me, pointing at architectural digests, whispering about floor-to-ceiling windows and infinity pools. "Just a few more years of sacrifice, Elle," he'd say, kissing my forehead as I rubbed my tired eyes after a 16-hour shift. "Then we'll never have to answer to a landlord again. We'll be royalty." I believed him. I worked until my wrists throbbed with carpal tunnel, managing the technical back end of our freelance consulting business while he handled the client relations. I was the engine. He was the shiny chrome. By the time I turned 28, we had done it. We had $412,000 in a high-yield savings account and another $65,000 tucked away for a luxury SUV. We were supposed to sign the closing papers on a Friday. I thought I was at the finish line of a marathon. I didn't realize Marcus had been running a completely different race. The shift didn't happen overnight. It was a slow, poisonous leak. About 6 months ago, Marcus brought up a new client, a high-net-worth individual named Chloe. He told me she was looking to launch a boutique luxury brand and needed 24/7 concierge-style consulting. Suddenly, the man who used to split a $5 pizza with me was coming home smelling of expensive cologne and Tom Ford leather. One Tuesday, I saw a receipt on the dresser for a $3,000 Omega watch. My heart nearly stopped. That was 3 months of our rent. When I confronted him, he didn't even flinch. "It's an investment, Elena," he said, his voice dripping with a new condescending edge. "Chloe runs in circles where people judge you by your wrist. Do you want the mansion or not? Stop being so small-minded." That was the first time he called me small. Soon it became his favorite word. If I questioned why his phone was suddenly protected by a military-grade encryption app, I was paranoid. If I asked why he was staying at networking events until 3 a.m., I was suffocating him. He started looking at me differently, not with love, but with a kind of clinical disgust. I'd be hunched over my dual monitors, hair in a messy bun, glasses sliding down my nose as I debugged code, and I'd catch him staring at me from the doorway. He looked like a man who had outgrown a piece of furniture and was just waiting for the garbage truck to arrive. But I pushed the doubt down. We were orphans, remember? We were a team. I told myself it was just the stress of the final push. I was wrong. The only thing being pushed was me, straight off a cliff. The morning of Friday the 13th was unnervingly quiet. No alarm went off, no sound of the shower running. I reached across the bed, expecting to feel Marcus's warmth, but the sheets were ice cold. My first thought wasn't betrayal. It was fear. I thought maybe he'd gone to the office early to double-check the wire transfer for the closing. I sat up, my heart doing a nervous flutter, and that's when I saw it. The closet door was wide open. His designer suits, his shoes, his high-end laptops, everything was gone. A single cream-colored envelope sat on my pillow. My hands shook so violently I could barely tear the paper. The letter wasn't a goodbye, it was an execution. "Elena," it read, "I'm not coming to the closing. To be honest, I've realized I don't want a life in a house that smells like your exhaustion. You've become a workhorse, Elle. You're dull, you're gray, and you're obsessed with the grind. Chloe is different. She's a luxury soulmate. She belongs in a mansion, and frankly, so do I. I've moved the funds to an account you can't track. Consider it my consulting fee for the last 6 years of my life you wasted. Don't look for us." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I lunged for my phone and opened our joint banking app. I stared at the screen, blinking, waiting for the numbers to load. Current balance, 42s. The $412,000 for the house? Gone. The $65,000 for the car? Gone. 6 years of eating ramen, 6 years of skipping birthdays, 6 years of 4 a.m. shifts. All of it had been sucked into a digital black hole. He hadn't just left me, he had erased my past and stolen my future in a single click. I tried to call him, but the line was disconnected. I tried his work email, deleted. He had planned this with the precision of a bank heist. He thought because he was the face of our business, he held the power. He thought I was just the quiet girl behind the screen. But Marcus forgot one very important detail. I didn't just manage our tech, I built it. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone against the wall. Instead, a terrifying surgical coldness washed over me. Marcus saw me as a workhorse, a dull creature of habit. He forgot that a workhorse knows every inch of the field it plows. I sat down at my workstation, the same desk where I'd earned every dollar he just stole, and pulled up a hidden partition on our local server. Months ago, when Marcus started acting secretive with his client files, I told him I was installing a new security firewall. In reality, I had installed a kernel-level keystroke logger. Every password he typed, every private message he sent to Chloe, and every bank login he accessed had been mirrored onto my drive. As I began to dig through the logs, my blood ran cold for a different reason. Marcus wasn't just a thief, he was a fool. I discovered that the luxury soulmate Chloe had been coaching him on how to funnel our business earnings through a series of identity refund schemes, essentially stealing from the IRS using our corporate credentials. He thought he was being brilliant, but the logs showed Chloe was sending his data to a third party. I traced the offshore wallet address he used to move our $477,000. It wasn't sitting in a secure vault. It was being drained, minute by minute, by a bot based in Eastern Europe. Chloe wasn't a socialite. She was a professional honeypot scammer. She had played Marcus like a cheap fiddle. He had stolen from me to give to a woman who was currently stealing it from him. He was a middleman in his own robbery. But I wasn't going to let Chloe keep my money, and I wasn't going to let Marcus keep his freedom. I didn't call the local police. I called the FBI's Cybercrimes Division. I spent 4 hours on a secure line with an agent named Miller, handing over 6 months of keystroke logs and the digital trail of the identity fraud Marcus had committed under Chloe's guidance. I made a cold, calculated offer, full cooperation and the encryption keys to the offshore accounts in exchange for total immunity. They jumped at it. But I wanted to be the one to pull the net tight. I knew Marcus was likely sitting in a hotel in Cabo, waiting for the flagged funds to clear so he could impress Chloe. I sent him one final email, spoofed to look like an urgent high-priority alert from the offshore bank. Security alert. Biometric verification required to release $477,000. Click here to perform a 3D face scan. The greed that made him leave me was his undoing. Within 10 minutes, the tracker I'd embedded in that link pinged. He wasn't just in Mexico, he was at a specific resort, at a specific table. I watched the red dot on my screen as the Mexican Federal Police, coordinated by Miller, moved in. While Chloe was in the hotel bar scouting her next victim, Marcus was being tackled to the ground. 6 months later, I stood in a sterile federal courtroom. Marcus sat across from me in a wrinkled orange jumpsuit, his luxury lifestyle reduced to a plastic chair. He looked broken. Chloe had vanished with nearly half the cash before the feds could freeze the accounts, and Marcus was left holding the bag for every fraudulent tax filing. During the recess, his lawyer approached me, whispering that Marcus was traumatized and recognized I was his true north. He actually had the nerve to beg for a letter of leniency. I didn't say a word. I simply walked to the glass divider, looked into his hollow eyes, and pressed the finalized divorce papers against the pane. "I didn't just get my money back through the fraud insurance bond, Marcus," I whispered through the intercom. "I got my soul back. Enjoy the next 10 years in a cell built by your own greed." I walked out of that courthouse into the blinding sun, stepped into my new SUV, and drove toward the house I bought, the one with my name, and only my name, on the deed. My journey from a cold studio apartment to a position of absolute power is a reminder that the strongest person in the room isn't always the one making the most noise. But I want to hear from you. Did I go too far with my digital trap? Or was Marcus simply reaping exactly what he sowed? It's important for me to remind you that the story you just witnessed is a fictional dramatization created for societal reform and educational awareness. I'm sharing this scenario to shine a light on the dark realities of financial abuse and betrayal so that you can recognize the warning signs in your own life. Please do not attempt to replicate the schemes or the legal maneuvers shown here. They are intended strictly for your awareness. For me, true justice isn't just about getting even. It's about protecting your future. If you found value in my story and want to stay informed on how to protect yourself and your loved ones, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to join us for our daily stories. Until next time.